Before we get into today's video, quick reminder to subscribe to the Cleveland Browns Report here because we're going to keep you guys in the loop all offseason long with the latest Browns news and rumors. Is another suspension coming for Deshaun Watson? That's what we're going to talk about on today's video because ProFootballTalk Mike Florio indicated that could be a possibility for the Browns quarterback. Now, we're going to start the video off by going through all the facts, and then I'll give you my take on the situation here. But let's start with the latest on Deshaun Watson because a motion to compel Watson to testify in another in-person deposition has been filed. Now, if you're a little confused on what that means, go watch some Suits and then come back in like 2 to 3 months. But for now, I'll tell you this. Of the 26 lawsuits that were filed against Deshaun Watson, 23 were settled and 1 was withdrawn, which means there are 2 outstanding. This is one of those 2. Now, if you don't recall, Deshaun Watson, of course, suspended 11 games and fined $5 million, an NFL record, by the way, for violating the personal conduct policy. Now, Mike Florio wrote about this, and here's what he said at the end of his article. Absent a settlement or a dismissal, the remaining claims against Watson will go to trial at some point. Although he has been suspended 11 games by the NFL for the allegations, the league has not completely ruled out the possibility of further punishment, given the evidence that could emerge in the remaining cases and or the eventual verdicts. Now, that's interesting because the moment I read that, I thought, I remember reading something that said basically the opposite. And then I found this old tweet that I retweeted from Tom Pelissero shortly after Deshaun Watson was suspended back in 2022. Pelissero tweeted out, "The settlement covers the 4 cases Judge Sue L. Robinson, remember her, ruled on, as well as any substantially similar violations before the date of the agreement, August 18th. So any new allegations of the same conduct from 2019 to 2021 wouldn't be subject to NFL investigation or discipline." This is basically saying the opposite of what Mike Florio is saying, right? Florio is saying there is an opportunity, there's a window, there's a chance that there could be some more suspension, some more punishments coming for Deshaun Watson. And Pelissero is saying if any new allegations or anything else comes to light that's from the same time period, and that's what this is, and it's the same similar violations, then he wouldn't be subject to an NFL investigation or discipline. Now, I also dug a little bit deeper, and I found this article from an NFL staff writer on August 18th, 2022, the day Deshaun Watson was suspended, and it says the NFL, however, could still investigate if new allegations arise against Watson that are different in nature. Again, we're just starting off with the facts to begin this video, and these aren't new allegations of different in nature. This is the same allegations of the first 26 lawsuits against Deshaun Watson. So I'm going to be inclined to believe Tom Pelissero over Mike Florio. Why? Well, Tom Pelissero, I think, is better tapped in with the league, given that he works for the NFL. So I think he's got a better idea as to the workings of what the league's policies are for this situation. And I also know Mike Florio and like all of us content creators in the offseason, when things get dry in the offseason, sometimes we reach. I've been guilty of it before. I'm not going to shame Florio for that. Now, creating new stuff like saying Deshaun Watson could get suspended again without giving a source or saying per source of that's what I'm hearing versus just tossing it out there when Pelissero 2 years ago said that's not the case at all. Now I think we're reaching too hard. So unless Florio has some new information or he knows something that we don't know, I'm going to go with Tom Pelissero and go under the belief of, no, there is not another suspension coming for Deshaun Watson because this is the same allegation from the same time period, and it's not new information or like new allegations or new information. This is exactly what Pelissero tweeted about, right? And that is if it's from the similar type of behavior and the similar allegations from that exact time period, Watson would not be subject to any further discipline. So I am not losing sleep over Deshaun Watson potentially getting a second suspension, and you should not either. Now, we're going to talk more about Deshaun Watson in just a moment and just overall review of what the Browns have gotten out of him so far as a quarterback. But how would you grade Watson's first 2 years in Cleveland? Be honest. I don't think it's an A. I don't think it's an F. I think there have been some good moments, and there have been some bad moments. But I don't think it's an A. I don't think it's an F. So let me know what your grade is down below in the comment section. I would put it at a B-. I think there have been some lackluster moments and some underwhelming times, but we've also seen him play at a very high level. And so I'll go with B- for my grade for his first 2 seasons in Cleveland. Now, we're going to talk more about Deshaun Watson in just a moment, so don't go anywhere. But really quickly, I want to tell you guys about our sponsor today, which is Game Time. If you are looking to go on a last-minute trip to a local sporting event like a Cavs game or any other sporting event in your area, get started with Game Time today because they're going to have the best deal for the dog pound. Now, personally, what I love about Game Time is the ability to get last-minute seats for the lowest price. I like to plan in advance, but I know that not all my friends operate the same way. So if you have a friend or if you are this person where you just roll out of bed and you're like, I want to do this today. Well, don't let super high ticket prices stop you from doing that. And with Game Time, you can get the lowest price at the last minute. When you download the Game Time app, they're going to give you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply when you use code BROWNSCHAT. Now, I'm sure you guys did not write that down, so I put it all in the comments and description of today's video. But get started with Game Time today and use that promo code BROWNSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, when we look at Deshaun Watson's stats in Cleveland, they're not that great, right? Is anyone going to say otherwise? Like, there are some okay stuff here, like 14 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, a good record altogether. But what I look at is, what was the last thing we saw of Deshaun Watson? It was that incredible comeback they had in Baltimore against the Ravens, when in the second half he went 14 for 14, 134 passing yards, 16 rushing yards, which might not seem like a big number, but remember, of those 16 rushing yards, one was a ginormous scramble to extend the drive to get into Dustin Hopkins' field goal range and a touchdown to go along with it. So, with that and the injury update of Kevin Stefanski saying during the offseason press conferences that there is full belief Deshaun Watson will be 100% by the time OTAs and minicamp and these spring workouts roll around, I'm upbeat about where Deshaun Watson can pick up from where he left off, which was the best game we've really seen him play as a Cleveland Brown, at least the best 30 minutes. Like, he had a great game against the Tennessee Titans. He had a great game against the Arizona Cardinals. The Titans and Cardinals were 2 of the worst teams in football last year. But we saw him do it against one of the best teams in the Baltimore Ravens when it mattered in the second half. An important thing for Stefanski and Ken Dorsey this offseason before the 2024 year gets underway is a way to get the most out of Deshaun Watson in the first few games of the season, because historically, and Watson was honest about this on a podcast, he's never gotten off to strong starts early in the season or strong starts early in the game, right? You can look at Deshaun Watson's stats in games 1 through 4 of his career versus the next 4 games. He's played more games in the first 4, yet he's got barely any more yards and far fewer touchdowns and the same amount of interceptions and a much worse record. And then if you look at 2023, Watson had a bad issue of getting off to slow starts. And he was able to overcome that in a couple of games. But the reality is, look how tough the AFC is. You just can't afford to be sleepwalking for the first 30 minutes every single week, right? Maybe it's going to be okay sometimes. You'll be able to pull off incredible comebacks against the Ravens. But you have got to find a way to get more out of Deshaun Watson early in the season and earlier in games, which really made that shoulder injury such a kick in the derriere because it felt like you were finally starting to get into a rhythm with him, and now it kind of feels like you're going back to square one. So I am clinging on to that Week 10 version of Deshaun Watson. I understand that through 2 seasons in Cleveland, the jury is still out as to whether or not this was a good move by the Browns. And ultimately, it hasn't really paid off super duper well. But 2022 was never supposed to be a year where the Browns go on a deep run with Deshaun Watson. It was basically getting ready for 2023. And things were shaping up nicely, right? If you think about the 2 injuries he suffered that knocked him out for a stretch of time, the game injury against the Titans and then the injury against the Ravens, he played really, really well in both those games. And then, unfortunately, he was lost for a stretch after the Titans game and for the remainder of the season after the Ravens game. So I don't think you're delusional for thinking there is still some really good football to be found in Deshaun Watson, borderline get back to his elite status like we saw in Houston. You just got to find a way to get back to the successes he's had in the Titans and Ravens game, and then finding ways to make it more consistent for 60 minutes and then for all 18 weeks, and not these slow starts that Watson historically has gotten off to. But what's your confidence level in 2024 Deshaun Watson? Scale it 1 to 10. 1 being this is a disaster, it's going to be awful, and they're going to have DTR starting halfway through the year. 10 being Deshaun Watson's going to be an all-pro quarterback and take this team to the Super Bowl. Let me know what your confidence level is down below in the comment section. Now, to wrap up today's video, let's pick a card as we have producer Cullen hanging out with us today. Cullen, which card do you want to go with?
All right. So we talked a lot about Deshaun Watson.
Yep. Oh,
So
this will be good.
It's got to be number 4.
Got to be number 4.
And I think just with all the news or rumors or reports or whatever you want to call it,
yeah,
I think spades is appropriate. So 4 spades is for me.
Okay, I'll go with it. I like it. I'm going to go with 7 of diamonds. No reason. This is, I think, the 4th time this year. 7 of clubs. Damn it. I am getting close. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to sign off and see everyone later.